Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be dissertating and talking about the moon transiting the ninth house in a natal chart. Now, the moon transit in a house is usually going to last between 48 and 72 hours on average, or at least generally speaking. Well, anyway, people, at this particular time, you might perhaps have a more emotional need for learning and higher education, even abstract thinking. Even if you don't necessarily decide to go to college or some university, or you're not currently involved in collegiate activities, it might be something where you might decide to want to learn a broad subject or concept, and this could even be over the internet. It doesn't necessarily have to be in a college. You might feel this need to be like this perpetual learner suddenly, and have a very strong desire to learn broad subjects. And you might feel more philosophical at this time. You might have a more of a vantage point, even if your chart inclines more toward an introverted, or I should say more pessimistic chart, if you will. You might have more of that need to perceive things as far as the glass half full as opposed to it being half open. You might be a lot more expansive, upbeat, and optimistic during this period, and have a lot of happy emotions during this time. This might be that time where you gain a broader perspective on things, and be more expansive, and really seeing the positive aspects or elements in your life. And this might be a time where maybe you're getting this 48 to 72 hour period, generally speaking. You might feel maybe that you're just tired of things in a way, with your set schedule, what have you, and things might seem monotonous, and you might want to break free from it. You might feel a need to kind of roam and meander, and really and kind of might be very more strongly maybe into exploration at this time. If you're like saying, even if you're somebody that's generally more stagnant and sedentary than the average person, there might be more of a need to take long journeys than usual. And let's say, and also really just strongly expanding horizons may figure more prominently than usual during this period. There might be something where the in-laws maybe might seem more moody or temperamental during this time, or they may perceive you as more moody and temperamental during this period. There might be a very strong need, or it might be more sensitivity, maybe perhaps in matters connected with religion. If you're a part of some religious group or congregation, you might be more sensitive to remarks if there's something derogatory that's said, even not necessarily directly to you. Even if this was something that you heard or something on the internet, it might bother you a little bit more now than generally speaking, or ordinarily would. Now, if you're not part, or if, let's say, for example, say if you're not very religious, or you're not part of any religious congregation or what have you, you might be more sensitive to remarks about maybe not being part of one. So it's something to consider during this period where the moon transits your ninth house in your natal chart. And it might be perhaps this is a situation where you just really want to go outside the box during this time. There might be a very strong emotional need to do so. And really, it could be going on a hiking trip. It could be going on like one of those expeditions, and maybe having a guide lead the way, one of those things. It could even be taking a literal long journey in some case. It could be taking something where you go overseas, you go to another country, even if the mind might take you there, even if you're just not literally doing it. This is a time period where you might also feel a strong aversion to people that are overly pessimistic, and you might feel more of emotional need to be around more people that are upbeat and optimistic. And there might also be maybe more of emotional need, perhaps in more sensitivity shown perhaps to people from other cultures and countries and ethnicities. You might have more dealings or communications with people from other countries during this period. And maybe it's time where you want to make enhancements and modifications to your life, which will improve your life situation in general, to have more positive things in your life. And it could even be a time where you might diversify as far as languages go and maybe learn a new one and become more learned in different languages. So that's a possibility too during this transit of the moon in your natal ninth house. Well, anyway, it's also important to look at the sign that the moon inhabits during this period. During that time, that it either is in your ninth house for either the majority of the period or the whole period, and because this could flavor the transit as well. I mean, let's say that the moon is in Pisces, for example. That might be more of emotionally, maybe to learn perhaps something connected with the metaphysical, such as astrology, maybe something connected with spirituality. And maybe it'd be more of a time where you might fantasize about long journeys and not actually literally take them, but they could still be something you think and fantasize about. Now, let's say that the moon is in Aquarius for either the majority or the whole period of that moon's transit in your natal ninth house. Well, this could be something where maybe you want to learn more about things connected with innovation, with new products, new ideas, things connected perhaps with computers and electronics. That could be something that might kind of, so to speak, tickle your fancy during this period of this transit. Now, it's also important to look at the aspects that the transiting moon in your ninth house makes during this period, as this could impact the transit as well. Well, let's say, for example, that the transit moon in your ninth house is making an adverse aspect to your natal Neptune. Let's say it's either making a square, an inconjunct, or opposition to your natal Neptune. Well, at this period, this might cause some confusion and delusion, perhaps in matters connected with higher learning, or if you're deciding to try to take some journey or traveling, emotions might be a little bit more chaotic, and it might make it harder to make that rational choice during that period. So that's something to consider. Also, let's say, take another example. Let's say that the transit moon in the ninth house is making a sextile or trine to your natal Saturn. Well, this could indicate perhaps your emotions are very disciplined during this period, and it's easier to make a rational choice, and have your emotions will be more rational at this time. So if you're making, as far as something connected with the ninth house, such as a long journey or something connected with religion or higher education, for example, those things could be made, perhaps if there's a choice made at this period, it could likely be made in a very judicious manner. Well, anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment for the moon transiting the ninth house in a natal chart. And stay tuned next time, where I'll be dissertating and talking about the moon transiting the 10th house in a natal chart. Two things I want to get with you on before I head out. Firstly, the stars may impel but do not compel. And secondly, never isolate any single astrological element, aspect, planetary placement, position, configuration, influence, or what have you, and make an analysis of a person, astrologically speaking, based on this alone. Because astrologically speaking, the person is the sum of all their components in their natal chart, and not just one. Until next time, people, stay well.